Hey guys, so here is that task I had you working on last time, and I want to go over it because it was pretty difficult. At least questions 3 and 4 got a little difficult. So just to make sure we're all on the same page, I feel like you all understood how to solve this formula, okay? So here it gives you the formula at the very top. The amount of fine, the D, the dollars, is equal to 0.508 times G, the number of gallons material spilled, times S, the environmental safety factor, times the quantity of A plus B plus C added together. Okay, so the first part I set up, $10 million is equal to, and then I just substituted in all of those pieces of information it gave you. And if you realize that the only piece of information it didn't give you was the number of gallons spilled right there, and that's what they wanted you to solve for. So the first step is the parentheses, and you didn't have to distribute because there were only numbers in the parentheses, so you add all of those up. 5.1. Then you multiply 5.1 times 2 times 0.508 times G. And it doesn't matter which order you do it in because 5 times 2 is the same as 2 times 5. So if you multiply all the numbers together, you get 5.1816 times G. So our G is still there. And to solve it, we need to isolate it. So since we're multiplying G times 5.1816, we want to divide both sides by 5.1816. So it cancels out here, and you have 10 million, the amount of their fine. You enter that into the calculator first, divided by 5.1816, and you get, let's see, 1,929,905.82 gallons spilled. Now, the second part of the question wanted to know, what was that in dollars per gallon? And here's where I saw 50% of you about make this mistake. Instead of doing dollars per, is that division sign, so we have dollars per division gallon, you did gallons per dollar, so you divided wrong. So you need to say it in your head. If the question wanted dollars per gallon, you take the dollars, which was 10 million, and you type that in first, and then divided by, and then the number of gallons spilled. So when you take 10 million, you divide it by almost 2 million, you get approximately $5 per gallon spilled. Okay? This is where it gets a little bit hard. It wants to, let's see here. It wants you to rearrange the formula in the state law to write a formula that gives the number of dollars charged per gallon of spill. So again, you guys, what it wants the formula to be is dollars per, that division sign, gallon. So how are we going to get that? We want dollars over gallons. So we want this side to be dollars over gallons. I'm just trying to figure out the easiest way to describe this to you. What you do to one side, you do to the other side, right? And I'm kind of going about this backwards, but okay, I divide both sides by G. Now, because you have your gallons up here being multiplied by all of these separate parts, and I divide it by, it kind of just cancels out right there, okay? Because no matter what's in the parentheses, I'm still multiplying this whole parentheses by everything else. So I'm multiplying the parentheses times S times G times 0.508. So as long as they're only multiplying and I have G on the numerator and a G on the denominator, they cancel out. So, and then I have also dollars per gallon on the left-hand side, which is exactly what the question wants. So let's rewrite it. Dollars per gallon is equal to 0.508 times S times A plus B plus C. So I know that's a lot easier than all the pieces of the problem were when you're reading it, but really all it wanted was dollars per gallon, and that's what we have there. So question number 4 wants us to use this equation that we just created, and let's see exactly what it wants. Question 4 says, what is the maximum possible fine in dollars per gallon of spill? So if you look at the top here, where it says S is an environmental factor in the range from 1 to 5 that takes into account wildlife characteristics in the spill area. So the worst possible fine, or the maximum fine, would be if S was the number 5. Okay? So because everything else needs to remain the same because the spill was kerosene, and for kerosene, A and B and C are these numbers. But we can change the environmental factor to 5. So let's go back and make that change. It wants dollars per gallon, so it wants us to use this equation that we just came up with. So our answer, our dollars per gallon, is going to be 0.508 times, and instead of S, we're going to make that the worst possible number, which is 5. And then A plus B plus C, if you remember, when I added those together, it was 5.1. Okay, so my dollars per gallon, again, is going to be, if I just multiply those 3 numbers together. So let's do that. It is 0.508 times 5 times 5.1. Okay, so dollars per gallon, the worst possible, is going to be $12.95. And I'll change that to an approximately a wavy equal sign, since I'm going to round to 0.95 and get rid of that 4. Okay, is the maximum fine for the spill in dollars per gallon. Okay, and if you look at what we got earlier when the S was not a 5, when the S was just 2, our dollars per gallon was only 5.18, $5 per gallon. The maximum would be more than double that, almost $13 per gallon. So that would have been a lot more money that they owed in that case. But please make sure every single person in your group has all of these answers written down on their own sheet of paper. And I would love for you guys to please discuss this and make sure that they have everything written down, because I'm going to randomly pull a piece of paper with somebody's name on it at the end of class, and that person is going to get up and explain a couple of questions about this. So talk about what the dollars per gallon means, talk about how you solved the equation, because you may be picked to explain it to the class. You may work on your personal study plan or finish anything you haven't been able to finish today in class when the group is done with this task.